Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to talk to you about Cyhra and their brand new album, No Halos in Hell, out November 15th on Nuclear Blast. The album has 12 tracks, 47 minutes in length, and this is the band's second full-length album, following their debut record, Letters to Myself. I hate to compare albums. I hate to look at a new record and compare it with previous records. I feel like that's not the good approach. I like to look at a record and see what that record is worth on its own merits. But having said that, I have to say this album is leaps forward on all aspects. When you look back at Letters to Myself, for as good as that album was, this one is just really surpasses it. Now, in my opinion, it really does that because it extends on what the previous record did. You feel the volume on this record is a lot bigger. The songs have a lot more impact. It feels heavier at times as well. And it just has a bigger overall sound. So I just like the fact that they kept some of the same components from the previous record and they just expanded on a lot of the other elements, making this a much larger than life kind of record. When I look at this album, immediately 4 different elements came to my mind as I'm starting to dig into it: structure, sound, lyrics, and vocals. To me, those 4 elements are the backbone, spinal cord, the DNA, if you will, of No Halos in Hell. Without those 4 elements, this record would be very different. So if I'm going to talk about this album, I have to talk about those 4 significant elements that put together this whole album. From a structural perspective, I really like what this album has to offer. The album is divided into 2 parts, and in the middle you have a song called Lost in Time, a ballad, a piano-driven ballad that really breaks the album into 2. It allows the listener to catch his breath before you go on into the second half of the album. First of all, I like that aspect. I like the fact that you have a ballad in the middle of the record that gives the audience just a chance to kind of recoup, think about what they've heard, and then get ready for what's coming next. So from that perspective, I really like that approach. Then as you start to look at all the other songs, the album has a very fluid structure. They have songs that are more intense, they have songs that are more aggressive, then they have songs that are just more melodic. They were able to combine all of these in such a smooth way, with such smooth transitions from song to song, that you really don't feel the dips in intensity or the dips in aggression from track to track. So they all feel very uniform, while still being very different from each other, because that's one of the uniquenesses of this album. You're not going to hear 2 songs that sound alike. The album has a very unique approach from a structural and from a sound perspective on a track-by-track basis. But there are some elements that remain true on every single song that allows the album to feel cohesive, to feel as a unit. And that gives you that sense of fluidity from track to track without you feeling abrupt changes, even though the songs themselves, as you start looking at the structure of the songs are very different from each other. I like that. I like songs that have individual components, that have individual styles, but then you have elements that hold it together. In this album, to me, the 2 elements that really holds the structure of the album together is the melody and the lyrics. Those 2 components are uniform throughout the album and are really the rope that ties every single song together and doesn't allow the album to fall apart. It doesn't allow tracks to feel disconnected from each other. It doesn't allow the album to feel broken. Those 2 components are extremely important because they really hold it together. Then as you start looking at the sound, you're going to get the sound and structure are really interconnected. Like I said, the melody plays a huge factor in this album by holding the tracks together, holding the structure of the album together. So to me, sound and structure are almost neck and neck. They're really holding hands throughout the whole album. The melody is very important to me because in some of the songs, the melody almost hides the heaviness that the songs have. The songs have heaviness to them, but it's not in-your-face heaviness. It's there. Sometimes it's hidden. Sometimes it peeks its head. Some songs have it more. Some songs have it less. So the sound of the album is very dynamic. It's very fluid. They created tracks that had unique fingerprints as far as the sound is concerned on a track-by-track basis. But keeping the melody there is really what holds not only the structure, but the integrity of the sound together as you go through this record from the first all the way to the last track. As far as lyrics are concerned, this to me is something that they took from Letters to Myself. Perhaps a continuation from where that album left off. I really felt the connection, the very personal and introspective look that the lyrics have on this album is something that we saw in Letters to Myself. So I'm glad that they took that. That was one of the elements that they took and they didn't change. They just moved it over into this record. To me, this is one of the key components of this band, is how they're able to create lyrics that not only are meaningful to them, but everybody that's listening to this record can feel a correlation to those lyrics, can feel like those lyrics perhaps were written towards them, were written about them, you know what I mean? So this is one of the components that I was really happy to see that migrated from the previous album to this album, and it's one consistent element throughout the whole record. It doesn't matter if the song is heavy, it doesn't matter if the song is melodic, it doesn't matter if it's a piano-driven song like Lost in Time. The lyrics are always very personal, are always very introspective. That is one of the common denominators. Last but not least, let's talk about vocals. Jake, absolutely phenomenal. This guy is like a fine wine. He just gets better with age. He was incredible in Letters to Myself. I feel like he really took it up a notch on this record. Outstanding vocal performance. Some songs, he really dictates the pace, he dictates the mood, he dictates the atmosphere of the song just by the way he sings those lyrics, just by the way his vocal approach is very important for this record in order to allow the tracks to have the fluidity that they have. He was absolutely magnificent. His voice was definitely an added instrument onto this record in order to make this record really well balanced, because there's so many changes, there's so many moving pieces from song to song, even happening within the songs themselves. If you don't have a vocalist like this that has full control of his range, that knows exactly what he wants to do with any and every single song on this album, the album is going to feel very disconnected and feel very broken. So I really feel that his performance was absolutely magnificent. It was a key factor on holding everything together. When you look at the lyrics and you look at the melody, his voice comes together, touches on those two subjects, and he's pretty much the puppet master that controls them with his voice, dictates where they go. Now, as far as songs are concerned, I want to talk about No Halos in Hell first. I absolutely love that track. Heavy riff opens up the track. It kind of gives you a glimpse to how heavy some songs could become, or some songs could get in the future. This band has that in their back pocket. So this song kind of starts off with a very heavy riff. I really like that. Once the vocals come in, we see a little bit of the intensity drop. The verses, specifically in the verses, the intensity kind of picks up again in the chorus, but once the vocals come in the verses, you can feel the intensity dropping a little bit. It gets this keyboard melody added to the verses, added to the mix, that gives a little bit of substance, gives a little bit more volume. But this is a song that really builds up towards the chorus. When you get to the chorus, while not heavy, at least not as heavy as the song was with that opening riff, it still has a big presence, it has a big sound. And it has still a little bit of that heavy riff towards the end of the chorus. It's a nice little treat at the end of the chorus to put that heavy riff that the song started off with, put it in that spot, just to remind you that that melody is still there, that heaviness is still there, that emotion is still there. So I really like how they constructed this song. Killer solo following the second chorus. And in my opinion, the solo did not add melody to this track, it added heaviness to the track. Because this track has like these sprinkles of heaviness here and there. It starts off with a heavy riff, then you get that same riff coming back at you towards the end of the chorus. But overall is a really melodic track. The melody kind of overtakes the heaviness that the song has. So I really like the solo, because in my opinion the solo really adds heaviness to the song and not melody. The song already has enough melody as it is. It needed a little bit more heaviness. So creating a solo that brings that heaviness to the table, to me, was a bonus. It really elevated this song. Next, I'm the One, a song that has a really cool synthesizer melody as the backdrop to the song. Sometimes more noticeable, sometimes less noticeable, but it's always there throughout the track. It never really goes away. I really feel like it's perhaps more noticeable in the verses, less in the chorus, but it's always there. It's just a matter of how much you're going to get of it and how much they're taking away, but it's always there. And the verses, the vocals really have a driving force towards the track. They really push the song towards the chorus. The vocals come in the verses, and they start to guide you to get towards that chorus, that melodic chorus, this big wall of sound, really a lot of melody coming at you in the chorus. And the chorus has another component, the lyrics. The lyrics in the chorus are simple, and the simplicity of the lyrics, in my opinion, makes the song really hooky, really catchy. The chorus almost feels like a pop song. It has a pop song structure to it. That mixed in with the simplicity of the lyrics, mixed in with all the melody all the melody and all the intensity that the vocals have been pushing throughout the verses all the way into the chorus, really makes the chorus memorable. It really allows it to work. It allows it to be catchy, to be hooky, and to be a song that immediately you start singing along, that has almost a very good live vibe. This to me is a song that in a live setting will work really well because of the simplicity that it has. People will be able to sing along in the chorus, sing with the band. So this is a song to me that has that pop element into it, and that allows the song to be a song that works well in a live setting because it just has all of those condiments that people will gravitate towards. It has a great guitar riff following the second chorus, absolutely delicious. The way it merges in with the vocals, I really like that. It's a song that has a lot of cool components. Definitely a more melodic song than No Halos in Hell. Definitely a different feel altogether. It doesn't have the same bite from the guitars, doesn't have the same heaviness, but has a lot of cool components that make this a really memorable track. Last but not least, one of my favorite songs on the record, Lost in Time, the ballad of the album. The really stripped down ballad of the album. This is all about the piano and the vocals. The two are taking turns on who drives the song, and they're in absolute control of this track from the beginning all the way to the end. A song that comes in the middle of the record, like I mentioned earlier, really breaks the album into two. A song that has a lot of emotion built in, not only into the vocal performance, not only into the lyrics, but also into the music. The piano is dripping in emotion. That emotion then is matched by Jake's vocals. He's absolutely stripped down naked in this song. There's nothing to hide, and there's nowhere for him to hide on a track like this, a track that has this much beauty in it, but there's nothing there. It's just the piano, just the instrumentation. There's nothing there for him to hide himself. He's absolutely vulnerable and naked on this track, and he delivers an incredible performance. This song, in my opinion, really puts on display the quality of his voice, the quality of his vocals, and how much he can do with it, how he can use them to control the fluidity of the song, how he can use them to control the momentum, the tempos, the melody that the track has. He's really he's the master of ceremonies, and on this song is on absolute full display. He's the puppet master. He's controlling everything. On this song, perhaps you notice it a lot more because, like I said, there's a lot less elements hiding, and there's no drums, no guitars. There's nothing there really hiding what he can do with his voice. So it's just him, the piano, and the instrumentation behind it. He's on full display, and he absolutely delivers one of the more magnificent tracks on the record, one of the most memorable tracks on the record. It's just a really magnificent piece of work, piece of art, this song. I love it. I love the feel, I love the emotion, I love the beauty that it has, and most important, I love the stripped down effect that this song has in the middle of the album. It really resets the scale. It allows you to regain your composure. It allows you perhaps to shed a tear or two while listening to this song before you get onto the next track. Alright guys, this is it. This is Cyhra, No Halos in Hell. Magnificent record from these guys. Really impressed with this album. I really enjoyed Letters to Myself, but I was really impressed with what they've done here. They just really took Letters to Myself and they turned it to 11. That's what they did with this record. But I want to hear from you guys. What is your thoughts on the band, on the singles? Use the comment section below. Let me know what you think, and I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.